Welcome to the Wally Show Aftercast. All the stuff we did not get to during the course of the show today. I wish Gavin was here. He had to step out and go take care of something family-wise because he was at Rolling Hills, our 20th anniversary message and service last night, or yesterday rather, on Sunday. And normally we meet at 5 different campuses all over, Nashville area. And this time they did it at the Ryman, which is a historic venue downtown.
With all 5 locations coming together.
Exactly. And it's an old church. And there's a history behind the Ryman that I didn't realize. It was started like in 1800 and something.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a church.
But have you been on the tour or anything or learned about it?
I'd like to.
Yeah, I guess there were all these, this guy was a fisherman or whatever, and they were having these impromptu meetings and Bible stuff. And he's like, we should really have a church. And he kind of spearheaded it out of kind of a rough place or whatever. Like, I did not know that. But we went there, and so Betty Rock used to go to our church, and I'll tell you, it was cool. I didn't want to go. We talked a little bit about that on the show.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah, I did not want to go. I was very vocal about it. And we've talked about it here on the Aftercast, too. We started in a movie theater 20 years ago. I've only been going there for 5 years, maybe, something like that. So I don't have the whole history with it. But I thought, that would have been really cool to do it back where you started. But then when I see how many people we had and the logistics of it and all the things they did, I'm like, okay, I get why you did it at the Ryman. And I was really glad I went. I kind of was like, I don't want to go downtown. I don't want to pay for parking.
That's how it always goes, though. Like, you dread it, you dread it, you dread it. And then you get there and you're like, okay, that was fun.
Yeah, and it really was.
But you're also glad that it's over.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was fun while I was there, and then having to leave and get out of a parking garage after church was just infuriating.
No, thank you.
But it's interesting, though, too, because we had to line up to get in. And I literally made the joke, I'm like, this is like being at Hillsong in New York. Because in Hillsong Church in New York, you wait in a queue to go in, and it's like a line at a concert, It was just kind of really weird.
No.
We go in, and we have the service. And I'll tell you, our worship team had never sounded better because we meet in a warehouse kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The acoustics are horrible. And so all of these people, and they were turned too. Like, they were excited to be there and do this.
Oh, of course.
They're playing on a historic stage. And so it was a big deal for all of them. And they brought their A game, sounded great, and they killed it. And you've probably heard me talk about this before. Like, Carrie Underwood goes to our church, okay? And she never sings. She's never on stage there. It's like, that's for her to go to church and just be part of church, And I love that. I think it's great. But they actually had asked her, to do something, and she did 2 songs. But here's what's really cool is how it all went down. So the pastor talks about a friend of his who wrote a song that he's known this guy since college, and he's a country writer, and he wrote a song called Something in the Water. And he comes out and starts playing it. He sings the first verse and the chorus. But Carrie had recorded that song. And so then she comes out and finishes the song. Nobody says anything. No one hoots and hollers like, woo, Carrie!
Oh, she just came out.
She just walks out and finishes the song and kills it. And at the end of the song, everybody kind of claps a little bit, and but no one was like, and everybody, Miss Carrie Underwood, they didn't even say who she was. And if you didn't know any better, I could see people going, oh, that girl's really good. That's the best worship girl we have. Why doesn't she do this every Sunday?
She must be at another location.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because there was no fanfare behind it. So everyone claps, and then she goes on to do the song. I knew she was going to be there.
Jesus, take the wheel.
No, I wish. She did How Great Thou Art. It's one of her best gospel songs that she does. But I knew she was going to be there. I knew she was going to play, and I knew she'd do that song. And so I don't like Carrie Underwood for doing that song because it's my wife's cry song, Her Eyes Out, because it reminds her of her mom. It was her mom's favorite song. And the minute the first note hits and Carrie hits the first lyric, the first syllable of the first lyric, I look at my wife, boo, just loses it. Because it's such a great song and it reminds her of her mom. But then to have Carrie, because her favorite version is Carrie's, so then to have her at the Ryman doing this, my wife was just a mess, and I'm just hugging her and, it's okay, a little pat there, but Carrie just kills the song. I mean, you can see the difference of years of being on stage and just her natural talent, but you could see how all the other people who are younger in this are like antsy and not spastic, but like super energetic, and they're trying really hard. And Carrie was just effortless and commanding.
She didn't feel like she needed to.
No, nothing to prove.
Yeah, like she was just like, either accept me or don't.
Like they say, act like you've been there. Like she's been there, So for everyone else, it's the first time.
Right.
And for her, she just kills it. But here was the weird thing. It was like she's singing, and normally every Sunday we do a song after the message, and they'll start playing it, and everyone stands up like really quick and worships like right away. No one stands up because I think they're like, I'm watching Carrie Underwood. I'm at a concert. I'm kind of at church. I don't know what to do here. So no one stands up.
Someone should have said something like on stage. Been like, okay, now everybody stand. And
because it's weird, because then Carrie's probably like, am I doing a good job? like, because you want the crowd to respond.
Yeah.
And then finally going into like the last chorus, people started standing up and singing and praising. And it was really cool. And I was talking to my wife about this after church. I'm like, yeah, no one stood up. I felt bad for Carrie. She's like, I know, I wanted to stand up on the first line. I'm like, well, you should have then. It would have started something,
Yeah,
but she goes on. But then what was really cool was afterwards, so she finishes singing, and again, no one says, Carrie Underwood, thank you. They do another song. They do like a medley kind of at the end of a few different songs. And another girl that's just one of our worship leaders leads that song. I would have thought they'd have Carrie keep leading, but this was what was really cool. So this other lady steps forward, leads the song, and Carrie steps back and is just in the ensemble with everybody else. And I'm like, man, that was a really cool way to handle it without it being a showy show,
I like that, yeah.
And so then I found out too, because there was another guy that I'm like, I don't recognize that guy from our worship team. Maybe he's at Nolansville or something. And I just found out today that was Shay from Dan and Shay, the country duo. And he sang a whole song early on in the thing. I'm like, oh, that guy's pretty good. I didn't realize it was him, because I guess he goes to he goes to like our Nolansville church or whatever. But it was really cool to see like how they handled it with her being there, being part of the church, giving something amazing to the church, like with that performance, but then being humble and honoring and respectful with it. I thought it was it was a cool thing. That's why I'm glad I went. Now, I hated getting out of the parking lot. My wife kept calling me a grumpy old man because I was like, "Do you see that guy? He's not merging. Zipper, everyone zippers."
I get it though. I would have been the same way. So
yeah. So anyway, that was church. It was pretty cool. Lady Rock, what do you got?
So it turns out that Rust is the movie, the Western movie that Alec Baldwin was doing. It's still going to continue, and Alec Baldwin will continue starring in it.
This is fascinating.
It is fascinating because he could be charged with, or he was, involuntary manslaughter.
Yes, he was. I guess they brought charges, but then they haven't obviously done anything with the trials yet.
Right. But a new attorney for the movie says that the production will now have, quote, on-set safety supervisors and union crew members, and will bar any use of working weapons or any ammunition. I would have thought that was a no-brainer.
Right.
Like I was, I'm in the middle of listening to Ron Howard's autobiography.
Oh, that's cool.
And he talks about being a young boy on the set. And there's one part where he's like in a Western, and I forget. He said that there was an actor on set that showed him, maybe it was Johnny Cash in a random movie that he was doing, but that the gun couldn't even fire.
Yes.
Like it was a prop gun. So they're so good at like making things look real when they're really not. Why it wasn't a gun made that way?
Yeah, why was it a real gun that could potentially fire?
That makes no sense.
Well, you remember after one of the shootings, maybe it was Russ. Maybe it was Russ. I don't know. But what's his name? The Rock was in another action movie, and they said we're not going to use real guns in this movie now because of that, and all the sound effects get added in anyway later.
It really makes no sense.
I mean, yeah, you look at airsoft guns, because again, I did a deep dive on airsoft guns looking for a hobby this weekend, and outside of the little orange cone on the nozzle that denotes it's an airsoft gun. If you take that off, they are designed to look like regular real guns.
Yeah.
And you'd never know. You'd never know.
It just doesn't make sense to me why anyone feels the need to have an actual gun on set. Like, me as a general public person watching the film, I would not be able to tell the difference between a real one and a fake one.
Because you can make one. I mean, they make them out of metal too. Like, I could see if like it's a toy and it's so light, you don't act like you would with a real one. Because but like, so for realism and being in that moment, having a weighted handgun that fires and looks like a real one. Yeah, but why you've got to have the real working one? Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
And it is interesting too that Alec is continuing to
be in the movie
and do it.
And Helena Hutchins, the lady who was sadly killed, her husband is an executive producer on the film now, and they're going to finish it. Yet he's going to be charged with a crime during this. That could be awkward as all get out.
It's really weird.
Yeah, and and it would be even weirder if they decide to finish the whole rest of the movie without guns. So the first half has everybody shooting and stuff, and the second half it's like finger guns. Pew!
Or they're just giving mean words to each other.
Yeah.
How dare you, sir?
Let's have a showdown in the middle of the streets. I think your hat's funny, like, your mom is so fat.
It'll be interesting to see, like, once it comes out in theaters.
Will you go see it?
No, I don't think so.
I will.
But just to see what people, will it get a lot of money from the box office or will it not? That'll be interesting. Or will it go straight to DVD? Like,
even though that scene was technically not in the movie because they were just rehearsing it where the lady lost her life, people will know, like insiders will leak, like what scene it was, where it is in the movie. And I do think people will go see it as just a curiosity.
Maybe.
But then is the movie any good? That's the test too. Like, was it actually going to be a good movie? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would go see it, I think. Speaking of guns, this was a weird story. That shooting that happened in Monterey Park, California, where this guy walks into a dance studio, like a ballroom thing, and killed 5 people. You're like,
yeah, I didn't hear. I thought it was 10.
Oh no, yeah, I'm sorry. He killed 10. You're absolutely right. There were other people that were injured, but they survived. 5 other people were injured, but 10 exactly.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about it until I got to work this morning.
Yeah, it's just really weird. This is the thing, though. This is what's really weird when you start reading headlines and then you read into stories. This was the headline I woke up to this morning. Asian Americans say Monterey Park killings revive fears, trauma of rising anti-Asian hate around the U.S. And you think, okay, this was a racially motivated shooting. Great, here we go again. What white guy went and shot up this place,
Mm-hmm.
And then when you dig into the story, it was a 72-year-old Asian man. And you're like, wait, why are you making this a race thing? Like, why are your headline is Revive Fears of Trauma Rising of Anti-Asian Hate Around the U.S. Can you say it's anti-Asian hate when it was an Asian guy? Like, he hates himself? He hates his, I
don't know.
But
maybe.
You don't put that into the headline.
Yeah, and that's where you got to be careful because if you just claim everything is racial, no one's going to believe anything.
That's exactly it. It says, and this was a quote like from the president of Queens College in New York City, University of New York. He says, even if we can't be sure an attack was racial intent, it's nonetheless a racial in effect. So you've made this whole article that it's a racial thing, and then you say, well, even if it's not racial, it still has a racial effect. What is wrong with you people? Like, you are going to continue to keep wedges. You are going to keep people from being on your side when you do this. Like, if you're making something racial that's not racial, it's tragic, yes, but it's not racial. So stop assigning race to everything because you're going to create a place where people do not care anymore. And they will not support you when it really is a race issue because you've cried wolf so many times and people are literally going to be like, maybe you deserved it, And I hate to say that, but that's the mentality of people when you jack with it so much. One day you're going to really need it and you're going to need people to be behind you and circle up the wagons and stand for what's wrong. And people are going to go, and that this is the kind of stuff that does that. It drives me nuts, man. And I feel bad for the future, for people that really do suffer at the hands of actual racism and need their story and their message told so that we can stop this, or at least we live in a broken world. We're never going to stop it. Let's be honest about that. I think that's the problem too. Like we're going to end all hate. No, you're not. We've been fighting with each other since the beginning of time. The first family of humans killed each other. Like Abel killed Cain, or Cain killed Abel, and it's like, so we have been fighting ever since. So I think it's naive to say that we're going to wipe this problem out. But we can certainly, if we can't eradicate it, we can certainly shrink it, and we should shrink it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's just the update on that story because we didn't do that story today on the show. Birthdays, you got any?
I do.
Bring them.
Rosemary and Milo want to wish their mom, Anna, a happy birthday.
Maybe they'll just send her that part. Like they'll just be like, hey, look, here's the clip.
Yeah. Said she got a job as our church's elementary school director.
Nice.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Then we have a question from Amy. She was originally wishing Richie a happy birthday, said that he's got a lot of talents. And she asked, what is one skill that others have that you wish you had?
Oh, wow. I was just talking about this with our graphic artist. I wish I could draw. Like, I love when people can sit there and they can tell you something and you're trying to follow along. Oh, here, and they sketch it out or something. Or, you sit there and you just, like, draw something beautiful or draw a picture of a person like, hey, I drew this. Like, I wish I could draw. I think that would be really great.
Is there a characteristic that you wish you had? You've seen other people have that you wish you had?
Patience. Patience, big time. I've tried, Rock. I just realized the Lord made me this way. And he did. Yeah, he made me this way. And he's like, you know what? I've made certain people to be impatient. And we need those to keep us pushing forward and moving forward as a society. So thank you, Lord. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh! Speaking of talking to the Lord like that, we saw that the lottery went up again, and so like nobody won, and I had like one lottery ticket, and so Marty goes, "Oh, it's $508 million." I said, "Oh yeah, I guess we didn't win." And she goes, "Oh, did you buy a ticket?" I said, "Yeah, I bought a ticket." And I go, "Well, sorry, Lord, you missed out on your 10%. You didn't let me win." She's like, "Did you really just say that to God?" I'm like, "Hey, it's just truth. You would have gotten 10%. Pretty big payday on $508 million."
Wow, but because even he knows you'd be like 10%. I mean, I was giving in the past.
Yeah, 3%. Let's 1.5%. Yeah.
The skill I would like to have is sewing. But I can do that. I just need to sit down and actually take the time to do it. And then a characteristic skill that I would like, I think I would like to be able to...
Empathy.
No. I think I would like to be able to speak my mind when the time calls for it. So if I'm angry about something and someone asks, why are you angry? I wish there are times where you're able to just speak off the cuff and you just say what's the top of your head. Right. There are times where I'm jealous of that. I wish I could do that. But
it comes with its own set of problems.
That is true. But I have learned that instead what I should do is say, and I think we talked about this, I'm a very slow processor. Like, I don't want to say something I'll regret because it will keep me up at night.
Sure.
So instead, I have to say, I appreciate you asking if something's wrong. Instead, I'm not sure, but can you ask me that question again this time tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And that gives me a minute to think about why I'm feeling the way I am, figure out what is my fault, what is their fault, and then come to them in a more calm manner.
When I was younger, you'd get into an insult battle with somebody, or somebody would say something to you that was insulting, and you'd lock up and you wouldn't have anything to say. And then an hour later, you'd be like, "Oh, I should have said this." Perfect comeback.
That's me all the time.
Yeah, I should have said. Boy, if I had it all over doing it, I would say this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, there you go. Those are ours, and that is going to do it for our Aftercast today. And as always, thanks for being a potty.